Welcome back to Kickback. My name is Ben Strasser, and we are proudly presented by CMHA Brant Haldeman Norfolk. And I'm now joined by Lukas. Lukas, thank you so much for joining us here at Up Yoga and Wellness.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you reaching out and saying, you know what, I've got something that I'd like to share and speak about, and something that I want to add to the conversation. And it's your journey with therapy.
Yeah,
And
of course.
now it's come. You wanted to specifically talk about the different points that it's kind of come into play in your life. Can you share about the different seasons that you've experienced?
Yeah, of course. So I did therapy young. Both me and my brother did, maybe when we were, I think, 10 and 12, somewhere in and around there. Both of us had been, going through a lot of bullying in school. We had a lot of sort of anger management issues that we were dealing with. So we ended up going to see therapists there, which then eventually also then transitioned into my parents got divorced, and we went to therapy for that. So that was, that was very much, we went through sort of the, that was guided by the education system. They encouraged us to go. I learned lots from that, in terms of being able to handle what people say and sort of handle sort of the anger that I had at the time, and really sort of learn to deal with that in an appropriate fashion. So that was sort of my first touch point with therapy, and then I figured, well, I've done therapy, so I'm good. Never need to go again. I'm perfect now. So I'm great.
Right.
And I did that for a long while, and then I was elected.
Right.
And I realized over the course of the pandemic, our generation has dealt with quite a lot of interesting sort of overarching changing dynamics through things like that. And I realized, I think, and in talking to sort of some of my mentors as well, maybe there's it's probably appropriate for me to go and check in, go seek out therapy again, just because, I think there's certainly, I grew up with this stigma of dealing, mental, therapies for when you're having like a crisis moment. Like when I was younger, when I was having, both me and my brother were having sort of anger management issues. But I realized, I'm moving into a new role. It's a stressful role. I'm an introvert by nature. I'm not recharged by social interaction. It's very much drained by it. And I've gotten myself in this situation now where I am in the public all the time, talking to people all the time, new people, very much out of my comfort zone. So maybe I should go check in, go see if I can find a therapist, talk to them about this, work through some of my social anxiety issues that I had at the time, so I could better, fulfill my role. And then it's kind of evolved from there too, where, I think, I wouldn't feel any shame going to a doctor, to go talk to my doctor about something, and now I view very much therapy in the same way as, I'm having difficulties with this, that, the other thing, and I can go talk to my therapist about it, and it's a great sort of mental check-in.
Right.
So yeah, that's sort of the two different moments that I've engaged with therapy.
Well, and I think that it probably served you really well having that introduction with therapy early on to understand what to expect.
Exactly. It was a very positive experience where, I think especially in media and things, it's portrayed very negatively, at least, in my mind, of sort of the zeitgeist of how that's presented. But for me, when I went as a kid, it was very positive, through some very stressful times in my life, my parents divorced, things like that. So when I was considering it again, I didn't have this sort of preconceived notion of, it's going to be scary or whatever. It was very much a comfort zone when I was a kid, and it's been that since.
Right. Well, and I think that you having the platform that you do now as an elected official in the County of Brant, like you being open and vulnerable and sharing your experience, I think that is an awesome step to have that be public facing.
Well, exactly right. I had seen a couple things that you've done through Kickback before, and a couple that particularly spoke to me, and some sort of life experiences that I've had, placing a lot of self-worth and value solely on your job titles and the things that you're doing. And it made me realize that, one thing to believe that we should be more public and open about these things, and another thing to practice what you preach. So I really want to take it upon myself to reach out and look to do this, because I think it is important that I do practice what I preach here and be open and honest about this, because everyone, in my mind, if it's an option, everyone should utilize these services in the same way that you would a doctor.
Right.
Because even if you're doing well, there's still things that I think you can gain from talking to sort of a neutral third-party voice with experience and training to be able to help you with things.
What has maybe surprised you the most in like your journey with therapy, like recently, with yourself being in the public eye? What has surprised you most about maybe the tools that you required to learn to be able to navigate?
Yeah, so I initially thought the sort of the catalyst for me was going and, okay, I have a lot of social anxiety over specifically going into like these big mixer types of events, because it's like sort of my worst case scenario where, it's new people, I'm having to like introduce myself into a conversation, put myself there. For some reason, door knocking is very different. You knock on the door and then I guess, I zone out and forget, and a conversation's happening to me now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the reason I went there, but then it's evolved from there of like, it's just great to be able to sort of, when I'm feeling things, especially when you're in the public eye, there's lots of public commentary, things like that, and being able to bounce it off of someone, sort of say, this is how I'm feeling, is there a better way I can handle this, am I right to be feeling this way, things like that. It's just a great venue to have, and not needlessly burdening, just coming home and dumping all that on my wife or something like that.
Yeah.
It's great to have, that's their job to do.
Right.
So it's great to have sort of that opportunity.
Right, and I think that as a man, it's very important to share that. And I recently, 2 months ago, month and a half ago, I set up an appointment with a therapist, and I chatted with her and just was able to say, here's all the things, here's all the cards, right? This is everything. And just be able to do it without there's no preconceived notions about anything, right? And just be able to say, here's everything. And now I haven't been back, but having that line in the sand of here's myself, right? Having that set up now to be able to go, okay, you know what? I'm putting up my hand because I really need help with this right now. You've got that base foundation set to be able to do that.
Exactly, and like I've been fortunate to I found a great therapist right off the bat, and I've been developing a relationship with them, and we have a good rapport now, and it's really helped building that relationship there. So they already have all of my baggage and stuff ready to go, and we can just get right into the meat of it whenever I'm experiencing any sort of issue that I need to talk to my therapist about.
Right. Well, and I think that it's, for me anyways, it was this immediate lightning of okay, you just needed to say it out loud, right? It was like I just need to hear myself say this, and then all of a sudden it didn't sound as bad as maybe as what it was.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, right. And so then the moment that you're able to kind of unload that, I think that particularly again as men, sharing the fact that just normalizing therapy, right? Because there are those stigmas around how it's portrayed, and the stigmas that have come along over the last 10, 20 years of that, and just making it normal to go see it. Like you said, just as simple as I'm sick, I got to go to the doctor, right? Well, I'm dealing with something like mental health related, I'm going to go to my therapist. Yeah.
Well, and like my first foray into it as a kid, it was very much me in a crisis point. And in terms of media, I think, like Tony Soprano went to go see a therapist. Like there's really extreme examples of when people go to see therapists, and that's sort of, I think, what's normalized, in particular for men. Right. But it really should be, just as easy as I'm going to call up my doctor because I got this going on. I'm going to call up my therapist because I have this going on.
Right.
And it should be that easy. And I go out of my way now too. I wouldn't say if you're going to a doctor, you'd say, well, hey guys, I'm going to go see this specialist or whatever. But I do make a point of saying I'm going to go to my therapy appointment. I'm not going to a doctor's appointment. I'm going to a therapy appointment. Right. Just because I think it's important that we really normalize that conversation. So that's something I've been doing in my own life, even of when I'm going to my appointment, I'm going to my therapy appointment today. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And how have you, when you say that, what has the response been like?
Generally, it's just very nonchalant, very because it is normal.
Right.
And it should be normal, and I think it's way more in our own heads about it, of it being a weird thing than it is when we bring it into normal conversation.
Right. Amazing. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much,
of course.
Lukas.
The thing that really made me want to do this was like your posting conversation on how much like self-worth you put on like your job. And that really spoke to me, especially given that like between council and things, like I've not been able to find a job for 3 years.
Right.
So it really has like, it really weighs on you,
Right.
like mentally, even though, you know, like we have a 10% unemployment rate. It's not
Right.
an unusual thing. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, right. And we hold ourselves to such a high standard without really being kind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then like you look at the amount of work that you do
Yeah.
as a counselor, and how much all of you get paid to do that job. It's like,
And well, and like, those sort of two things, I think we put so much value, particularly on the monetary amount that a job brings you. So like, I find myself all the time in like sort of this negative self-talk going and saying, when I get a real job, this isn't a real job. Like really devaluing it,
Right.
what I do, even though it is an important role.
It's very
purely because like it doesn't help me keep the lights on.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So it's an interesting sort of dynamic there, where I'm objectively speaking doing something that few people try to do, fewer people get the opportunity to do. So successful from that metric, but like purely like mentally, it's like failure.
Right.
Even though that's not
Actually,
the case.
right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting sort of dynamic there.
Right. Well, and I just have so much, I don't know if I've ever said it to you, but I have so much respect for you
Oh,
for
thank you.
putting
Yeah.
yourself out there.
Yeah.
Like, just putting yourself, because it's like, I see how it's affected friends, and I hear the stories of what that takes and what it is. And so I mean, thank you for doing, put yourself
thank you.
out there, because
And it's an interesting role too, where in a lot of public facing things, rarely, if ever, do you ever hear positive.
right.
And that's not even strictly true. I say that's not even strictly true. I do get lots of positive feedback. But the negative one just weighs at you so much more and picks out all those little insecurities you have. So you hear one negative thing that's like, oh, I'm doing a
Yeah, you
terrible
get hung
job.
up on that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
right?
Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much,
of
Lukas.
course.
I really appreciate you taking the time.